Hi folks, it's Chet from Tag Along with Chet, and here's another episode of Hangar Chet-Chat. I believe this is episode 5. And today it was cold outside. Well, it is cold outside. I think it was about 18 below this morning, and we had a little bit of snow, nothing serious, very light stuff, but the trees are just beautiful. They're the golf course just across the road here from the airport is looking really nice. You know, that frost that was on the trees from the fog that we had the previous few days, it just hung on there, and then of course the snow got on top of it, and it just looked beautiful. Hopefully I'll get some shots of it, and I'll put that on the beginning of the film of the vlog, and you can see what it looked like. Anyway, let's keep on trucking out here about some of my adventures here on my first logbook. We're going to jump to 1976. I owned the Cherokee 140. I owned that for less than a year. I did some instrument stuff on it. Probably, I guess it was in around April 75. And I think the last trip I did, I went to see my brother-in-law and sister that lived somewhere in Ontario at that time. And then I became owner of a Piper Cub. And the reason why I bought the Piper Cub is, of course, it's because of the fact that it could go on skis. And I always wanted a Piper Cub. So I'll show you some of the building pictures. I'll put them in the vlog as well. And so when 76 came along and it was time to go back up north again, that's exactly what we did. Now, this trip was not really as, well, it was exciting, but we didn't get very far. We got up to Parry Sound, but it was very marginal weather. Anyway, and there was more of us this time. And unfortunately, we did have a chap that came up in a Fleet Canuck. And he lived in around the airport as well. And he had just finished it. And he wanted to go with us. He had skis and everything, and it was a beautiful Fleet Canuck. Anyway, we went up, and the bunch of us launched out of Burlington Air Park. And that was in February the... Oh no, what did I say? It was January 31st we left this particular time. January 31st, 76. And we bombed off to the normal Parry Sound. Now, en route to Parry Sound, the weather just went for a crap. I mean, there was, I was sort of back watching the guys in front of me. And I think there was, I don't know how many guys, maybe 5 guys in front of me. And I just stayed behind because I didn't really like the weather, what I saw in front. So I just watched them disappear in this this whiteout. I mean, and the reason why I'd been so used to this now, getting all those snow squalls off the lake. That's Georgian Bay, actually, which is the northeastern arm of Lake Huron. And when it's a little windy, you can get some pretty heavy-duty snow squalls off of there. Some of those snow squalls actually keep on trucking, and they go all the way into just west of Toronto there, or northwest of Toronto. But anyway, I didn't like what I saw, and I just saw this white coming at us. So I kind of stuck behind, but yep, and these guys all disappeared. I didn't see another hide or hear them. They just disappeared, and the same happened to me. I just got caught in this whiteout. And you didn't know whether you were inside out, upside down, or whatnot in a Cub. I just had to get a cup of coffee, and I had to turn the heat down. So that's why there's a bit of a pause here. Anyway, let me think back what happened. Oh yeah, they started disappearing in this whiteout cloud, and everybody just ended up scattering all over the place. Now, the area from Georgian Bay going into Parry Sound, there's a lot of inlets, a lot of little sounds that go in, and a lot of islands. And it's a real beautiful place, actually. A lot of cottages up there. Anyway, I lost track of where everybody was. I couldn't see a thing, and I just kept on trucking. I managed to get down low enough, but I didn't know what inlets to go into Parry Sound. So I looked at my chart, and at the same time trying to keep the airplane straight and level, and I got to admit the airplane was very well balanced. I could actually hold the stick in between my legs and keep the wings level and still look at the chart. And now you got to remember, everything's white, okay? The snow is coming down, it's white. Down below you, it's all white, with the exception of some of the trees that were sticking out. Now you were really low. I mean, I was so low that you know, I didn't even know how low I was. All I know is I was low enough that I could see the trees. So I knew there was a marine beacon north of Parry Sound, and I thought, well, if I keep on trucking and I just head due north up the eastern side of Georgian Bay with all the little inlets and islands and whatnot, and just keep a heading of going north, I'll eventually hit this beacon. But I thought, well, I think I'd probably be able to recognize this beacon, because usually what they are is almost like a little lighthouse type thing, and it's a marine beacon. And the only reason I knew it was there is because it was on the chart. To power that beacon, it must have had a power line that went from the main highway, and it was Highway 69, it's north of Parry Sound. I thought, well, and it'll probably go to the highway. So I thought, well, I'll just keep on flying until I find this beacon. And yeah, 10, 15 minutes later, there it was. And it was a lot smaller than I thought it was. It's amazing I even found it. And the power line that went to it were just normal power poles. They weren't like anything massive. It was just a road, and it was one of these old gravel roads. And I was low, guys. I was really low. So I followed the power lines east, because that's where the highway was. So I followed the power lines. I took the turn, followed the power lines, just hovering over these power lines. It's a good thing there wasn't anything else that was higher than that, because I would have hit it. Anyway, and I finally found the road, and it was the highway. And then I went south. Anyway, I found Parry Sound, and sure as heck, there were all the guys. They were all there, and they all had their little stories to tell about the adventure they had, how they got there. Some of the guys, they managed landing on some part of a lake somewhere, and then they finally got a bit of visibility, and they took off again and popped over to Parry Sound, where we were all supposed to meet. Anyway, the guy in the Fleet Canuck, he didn't show up, and we were really starting to get worried. But the weather was so bad, we couldn't search for him. So a buddy of ours that was there, his name was Tom, he had a cottage on Lake Muskoka, which was all closed up for the winter. I mean, it was only for the summer. But anyway, he said, well, look, let's all just head off to the cottage, and I'll try and see if I can get the thing opened up and get the heat going in there, and we could just stay overnight there. And what we did is we phoned up and reported this one guy as lost. We managed to get all the rest of the guys back over to this cottage, and that night it wasn't good weather either. We had freezing rain. It was one of those bad years, and there was slush. Anyway, the next day we all got up, and we were going to go out and see if we could find this guy. So we all bombed off to Parry Sound. And it wasn't a good day. The wind was forecasted to start picking up from the north, like it normally did. You know, once a cold front starts going through, and anyway, it didn't look good. So, but we got up there anyway, and we managed to land. And then, after he'd been there for about an hour, we met a guy who was a trapper who'd been on a skidoo, and he said, "Yeah," he said, "there's an airplane not far from here." He said, that's been there all night, and but he was on skis and everything was fine. So we didn't know exactly what had happened, because what he ended up doing is he probably went into one of the cabins. Now up there, the cabins out there, what they normally do is they leave the doors open. When they leave a little bit of food in there for just those types of emergencies where somebody gets lost and they go into the cabin. And that's what he did. He went into one of the cabins, and he stayed overnight there. Then he made the big mistake of getting up and going in the airplane and flying out to Parry Sound. Now, like you probably remembered on the previous video I told you about in, I think it was in number 4, the episode number 4, that was a one-way strip, and you know, it just, a north wind in there is not good, because what happens is you have one heck of a crosswind, and he was not 100% on skis, because it was the first year that he'd flown the airplane after he'd rebuilt it. Anyway, he came in and he, I don't know, I can't remember exactly what happened, but he ended up, one of the wings got picked up by a wind, and anyway, he ended up mangling up the airplane. Now, he was okay, but he did do a number on the airplane. It wouldn't fly anymore, obviously, because one of the wings was bent, the strut and everything like that. Anyway, make a long story short, he ended up getting somebody to come up there and taking the airplane. They took it apart and they put it on the trailer and took it back home again. We ended up going, we were going to go up to, from Parry Sound back up to Lake Temagami, but the weather was just the craps. Anyway, some of us made the decision that, well, some guys were going to go home the next day. Well, Joe and I think we were the only two that ended up, we went up to Temagami, and we only spent a couple of days up there, but it was crummy up there as well. We had slush out on Lake Wilson, and it wasn't very enjoyable. So, yeah, I'll just tell you one more little thing here, because things started happening with the Cub after that. I did one more year, and that was in 1977. I flew up to Joe and I, just Joe and I went up to his cottage up in Lake Wilson on February the 5th, and that's where I just about lost the airplane. We went up and we flew. We didn't go to Parry Sound. We just went non-stop up to around North Bay, and there's this little lake. Well, it's not little. It's quite a big lake. They have float plane operation on it and everything. And it's but in any case, it's just east of North Bay. Just east of the Trout Lake is just east of North Bay, and that's where we landed. Now, we had to pick up fuel there, so we could continue up to Wilson Lake, or Lake Wilson, because we never knew whether there was fuel available over Temagami or not. So we stopped at Trout Lake, and we picked up fuel there at a float plane operation that also had skis in the winter. So I fueled up, and Joe fueled up. Now, we came in, and we could tell that it was slush out there. I mean, you know, you touch down, and the snow as you're touching down and compressing on the ice, while the area between the ice and the snow that you're landing on has got water underneath it. So I mean, it's deep, pretty thick ice, obviously, but it's got water on top of the ice, and then once you come down and you put the weight of the airplane down on the snow, it compresses, and then your tracks turn black. But anyway, we had to get fuel, so we came in and we figured, well, we come close to shore, so that's what we did. Okay, now I fueled up, and I thought, well, okay, fine, now I'm going to take off, and I'm going to take off in the same tracks that I had left in, because I figured they'd be frozen by then. Well, they weren't. So I took off, and I think I got maybe, I don't know, not very far out, and the ice from the track started building up on the skis, and I got heavier and heavier, and the airplane just came to a stop. I couldn't move anymore. Anyway, fortunately, there were some guys over in the that had fueled us up. They managed to dig me back out again, and I was down for maybe, I don't know, not too, you don't have to be in the slush too much, because it's once you're in the slush, to get you out is really difficult. Anyway, we got some 2x4s and plywood, and I thought, well, I got to get going. So it happened one more time where I took off. Fortunately for me, the airplane, the prop that I had on the airplane was meant for an 85 horsepower engine. And the engine that I had on this J3 was a 65 horsepower engine. And when it was rebuilt, that's the only prop they had, and it was going to be swapped around, but I said, oh, don't worry about it. I'll just make sure that I don't keep the RPMs below the red line. Well, it's a good thing I had that prop on there, folks, because if I didn't have that prop on there, I wouldn't have had an airplane, because The third time I took off, I used all the power I could, and I did that on the previous trips too, or on the previous tries, but it didn't seem to help. But I must have got into some area where it wasn't as bad as far as the slush was concerned. But I managed to get going, and I just had that thing wide open. I mean, it was, I don't know how many RPM into the red. It was enough that I needed a new jug later on after I had an annual done on it, but because I did something that, but anyway, I got the airplane out, and as I was leaving, the ice that was built up on those skis was, I'll bet you there must have been 6-7 inches of ice all over those skis, just thrown up, and on the landing gear, struts. It's a wonder the damn thing even got airborne. And as I was going, I wasn't climbing at all, I was staying low level. I had to watch for skidoos, which guys had been going ice fishing on, and they had sunk into the slush. And you could just see them sitting, they were just sitting like this, more like this, I can't remember. But the ass end was sticking out of the ice and the slush, and they couldn't get them out. And those things, they just end up, in an insurance case, they just end up going to the bottom of the lake, because you can't get them out. They're just dug in there so deep. Anyway, I finally got where I just flew over the lake and just kept on flying until I got enough speed, and some of the ice had started peeling off the skis. Not that it was really peeling off, because all it was doing was freezing harder on there with the wind blowing across it. And I finally got the airplane up high enough that I ended up following the road that went up to Lake Temagami and landed in the lake. Now that lake wasn't much good either. I mean, we had to fly over that lake a few times and drag the skis in it and kind of flatten it down, but it wasn't as bad. So we got in there, and then the next day, oh man, it was terrible weather. I think we ended up with freezing rain. Now fortunately for us, Joe, who was quite handy, had made wing covers, and we slipped on the wing covers, so that did a real, that really helped us out. Anyway, that's going to be it for this one, guys, because then I got transferred. Okay, then I got transferred from CP Air, and I was transferred to Vancouver. So the airplane had to go to Vancouver, and that's another whole adventure, which I'll tell you about in the next one, because that was a nice, interesting trip as well as I've got a video on that, which I'll post on the next episode. Anyway, folks, thanks for watching, and just the normal, really I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel. It's sure going to help me out. I got, I don't know how many more I got to get to that magic number, but it would help me out if you just hit that subscribe button and click that bell when it comes up, and yeah, everybody will be happy. When you hit the bell, it'll tell you when the next episode or whenever I post again, and hopefully I'll be posting a few, because I'm only into my first logbook, guys. This, I'm in I don't know what page it is, but no, I'm maybe about a third through my first of 6 logbooks. So there's a lot more to come. Again, folks, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next Hangar Chet-Chat. See ya. Bye now.